team went out with injuries in the last game. I know it's early in the week. Do you have an update on any of those players?
We're kind of waiting on to get some update on a few guys. Yeah, it was. Man, I admire our guys' fight the other night, and a lot of guys got called into duty that wouldn't normally be in that situation. Um, that's football. We seem to have a rash of more of them than you would typically want or have in a typical year, but that's football.
Scott, with all, as you mentioned, with some of the injuries, everything going on, this seems like a monumental task this weekend, a David and Goliath type situation going up against Texas Tech, and how well they played so far this season. What's your mentality trying to face off against a team that's one of the best in the Big 12?
I have the same mentality I've had every week. We just got to keep getting better, and we haven't played up to our capabilities on the road yet this year. So whatever that capability is, then I want to play it at a closer rate to what our best is, and that means a good week of practice and the right mentality going into the game.
Coach, I wanted to ask towards the end of the Houston game, what was the availability of Jakari Brown to go in for that situation?
Yeah, Jakari's still not 100%. He's kind of been our emergency guy for a while. He had a pretty bad shoulder, and it's getting better. So we'll keep evaluating him week by week.
And I wanted to follow up with Davi. What was the kind of decision? Was there more consideration possibly putting him earlier in the game, or do you feel like that was the best time for that situation?
Taven talked to us about having a bit of a hammy issue that happened in pregame and said he could go. We actually talked at the end of the third quarter about the next drive, making a switch. We didn't, and then we didn't get the ball back until the last drive. I think we only had 2 drives in the fourth quarter. So that's the reason it happened when it happened. I think it was the right decision based on health and situation in the game.
After the game, I asked you about penalties. You've been talking about it all season long as something that needs to be corrected. What is the process that you go through in a week leading up to a game to address that specifically?
The one little tweak we need to make is when we're installing all this, in my opinion, sometimes we stop the play before it happens to make sure somebody's aligned right or somebody's motioning right. And that gives people up front or at tight end a chance to mill around and not be set when we start the motion. When we break huddles, we got to get to our spot, get set, motion, and go. And when you're installing some of this stuff, it kind of takes away that urgency. That's not an excuse. That's just a practice process that we've been refining to make sure it's better. Biggest thing is we just got to be more disciplined with getting set.
Coach, if you've got a chance to speak with Davi, how has he just has responded over these past couple of days since the last drive of the game?
Davi will be okay. The players love Davi. Davi cares a lot and took it really hard. And I want players that feel that way. It says a lot about who he is as a person. To be honest, we put him in a tough spot. Going into the season, he was 4th quarterback. He didn't get a lot of reps in camp. We had a guy in the game at the end that I think it was the right decision to put him in, but he's probably only had a couple hundred reps of offense with our first group. And you can't expect him to do everything. We weren't going to call some of the things in the game plan with him in there. We're just going to call things that we knew he knew. And I think for the most part, he did a good job.
Coach, you say your mindset doesn't change heading into this week, but does your message to the guys change at all? Do you tell them anything about maybe the margin for error shrinking against a team like Texas Tech?
Yeah, you got to play really good to beat these guys. And I credit them for the team they've built. I like our team too, and the one thing you can take out of that Houston game, as disappointing as it was, is how much fight there was in our guys. I never want us to lose that. You go into a process like this, and you can't ever assume it's going to be easy. Nothing worth having is ever easy. And when Coach Grinch sent me something this week, and to kind of paraphrase it, when you're going through a process like this where you're building, maybe deep down you're hoping there's an easy way, that it's just going to happen without the hard work, without the trials, without some setbacks. Nothing good ever happens without those things happening. And you got to go through the hard to get to the good. We're having fun even though we're going through the hard. To think it's just going to be easy, I don't think it'd be worth it when we got there. It isn't like I was going to show up and we were going to go undefeated. It isn't like the players aren't going to have to work in the weight room and suffer through some things and have some heartbreak before we get there. That's the process. And I want it worse than anybody. I don't want it for UCF more than I want it for me. I want it for these players more than I want it for me, and it's coming. We got to get it over the hump, but to think that it was just going to happen is unrealistic, and we got to go through this to get where we want to go.
It sounds like you're satisfied that your players have embraced that mentality.
I think for the most part our players have. I got a bunch of guys that won't quit and are going to keep working to get better. And, you know, coaches use these phrases too much, but sticking to the process and all those things. But it's true. I can't. We're doing the right things. If I panic and change, then we're starting over. We got to stay the course. We got to battle through. I remember in the first time I was here, they were booing McKenzie at the bowl game and wanted me to take him out, and he just kept battling. And then the next year, he's a hero. I walked off the field yesterday, and some student was yelling at me. You know, you got to go through those things if you're going to get it to a point that everybody wants it. You know, this team fights. We got a good team. We're a player or two away in a couple games from being a 6-3 team. We're not. We got another opportunity to go play this week, and really, if you take a giant step back from it, we get to coach football and play football, and we get to do it against a really good team, and that's fun. Everybody would sign up for that. That's the mentality I want our guys to have, knowing that if we stick to what we need to do and go through the hard to get to the good, it's going to be even more worth it at the end.
ESPN reported last week that Texas Tech has invested $7 million on its defensive line transfers alone. Obviously, they've got a financial backer or two, and they have, and the rev share model has changed. But on a broader scale, how does this, how do you guys adapt and compete year on year when you have that sort of maybe disparity in even in your own league?
I don't want to talk about them specifically. What I want to talk about is the broad picture of all that. I hate where the game is right now. It's great that players are being compensated, but there's absolutely no guardrails around it, and that's a shame for a guy that spent most of my life in college football and loves it and loves the purity of it. It's not where it should be right now. That being said, the teams that are doing things to get ahead, it's the old saying, you don't hate the player, hate the game. I don't blame them, and they did a good job using their resources to get a good enough team to be 8-1 right now, and sure, everybody wishes they could do that. Not everybody has the ability to do that, and I think we put together a really strong team with what we had, and we're going to keep having more because of the work that Terry and other people are doing. And in the meantime, we're just going to keep battling and having fun. And I respect them for what they've done. Wish we could just do it. We can't yet. We're getting there, but in the meantime, we get to go play football and try to compete against a good team, and that's fun.
Coach, you talked a lot about how Davi responded to that final drive, but also with Taven coming out, what are you hoping to see from both guys in practice this week?
I think the big thing for our football team, quarterback included, is we're not making enough hard plays. When we scheme something or there's something right there for us to make, particularly offensively, we make the play. We need some more dirty yards. We need a quarterback to hang in the pocket and make a tough throw. We need to break a tackle, make a guy miss. We need to run and get a first down when it's appropriate. Davi did some of those things. Whoever's playing quarterback, we need to see those things from. And when you watch the good teams at any level, that's what happens. If everything has to be perfect for us to function well, then we're not a very good team. We need to make it happen even when it looks different or it gets a little tough. And, that's part of the growing process.
I know the running back room has been hit a little bit hard with injuries. How can you maintain sort of a run-pass balance? I know you've been using Dwayne a little bit more in the run game. How's that help just keep the balance between the run and pass and having different kinds of threats out there?
Yeah, it all goes back to a little bit having a 105-man roster now, and you can only have so many people at every position. There's a few spots where, we're thin enough that we're having to borrow people for practice. That's just the game again, and it won't happen every year to every team, but once in a while you have a rash of injuries. It seems to happen at one position when it happens. We're down Swint and Stacy, and we're down Miles at the end of the game, and that makes us pretty thin. We got some guys capable of carrying the ball, and I'm sure they're excited about their chance, and we got to make the best of it.
Coach, with all the injuries to the team, what's the message to the guys to help them step up this week?
Keep fighting for each other, and they will. I think that's, just hearing from guys, a little piece that was missing, and I think it's building and it's developing with our group. We got a great group of guys, and I don't think that this group would ever quit on the team or on each other. Yeah. So we got 3 more games. We're going to have fun. We're going to attack with no pressure on us, just like I always want us to, and try to be great. And that starts this Saturday.
What are your initial impressions of Texas Tech and what you've seen on tape, and what sort of challenges do they present to you guys?
What I admire about them is they have a good team. They have a lot of talent, and they keep it pretty simple because of that, so their guys can play fast. They have pretty good players at every position. And they don't overcomplicate it for them. They just let them go out and play ball. That means schematically, there's some things that we see that we can do on both sides. It still comes down to one-on-one matchups a lot, and they got good players. So we got good players too, and we got to go try to win the majority of the one-on-ones if we can.
Speaking more on Texas Tech, defensively they've been incredibly strong all season. Many playmakers on that side. What stands out about looking at their defense?
Well, they got a guy in the middle that makes a ton of tackles. They got good pass rushers. They're really stout up front in the middle. I think their secondary does a good job keeping things in front of them and not giving up any big plays. And they're really active. You see something open and a ball goes somewhere, and the gap gets closed fast because of the talent on their team. So you got to earn it against them.
Scott, you guys have struggled on the road. What sort of things do you need to, especially coming off the Baylor loss, what sort of things you thought you guys played really, or you guys were ready for that game? What do you guys need to do maybe to get over that road hump a little bit? Is there something that maybe kind of is practice, more efficient in practice? What do you think you need to do?
No, I think it's just a mentality and a growth thing. We got to be, again, like I said, doing the tough things. It's tougher to win on the road than it is at home. It's easy to play your best at home when all the fans are behind you. It's more fun to go on the road and surprise somebody and fight through something hard. That reward is bigger. But you got to be tough to do that. You got to be together and you got to be tough. And to this point, we haven't won on the road. We haven't been up to that challenge, but we get another shot this week.
Coach, season-long struggle with penalties. How just frustrating and how much of a struggle has it been to establish an offensive identity when the team's constantly pushing themselves behind the chains?
Yeah, it's a lot of pinpricks and paper cuts. When you're really good on offense, a 5-yard penalty doesn't slow you down as often as if you're growing. But when you're growing, you need to not have those. We didn't have as many Saturday. The frustrating one for me is to put Davi in and call the play, and we got him out there fast, and it's one of his first times out there, and we had 2 timeouts left, and I didn't want to burn a timeout at the beginning of a series. But he did a good job erasing that. And when you're a good enough team, you can erase some of those things. So it's a double-edged sword. We got to continue to eliminate those and be better so we can overcome the ones we have.
After the game and a little bit more of late, you've been saying you know where this is going. Would you expand on that a little bit more for the fans? What does that light at the end of the tunnel look like?
Well, it's kind of what I said. This was always going to be a process, and I knew we had enough talent to be competitive in this league, and we do, and we still do. Like I said, a couple plays here and there, and it looks a lot different right now, but that's the process you go through. We're developing a culture, we're developing a bond, we're developing a team. We're identifying guys on our team that are leaders and that we need to build around. So we're going to get this done, and we're going to get it there. But you got to kind of enjoy this part of it too. Again, because if you could snap your fingers and win, everybody would be doing that. It takes more than that, and you have to kind of embrace and try to enjoy the process and the struggles that help you get there.
One more?
Coach, what's the biggest thing you want the team to take away from a week of practice like this?
We're going to have fun in practice this week. We're going to be supportive of each other. We're going to try to do little things to get us a little bit better, and that's what we do every week. And there's still some things that I see on our team that we're not executing good enough. We're going to focus on those things while putting in a game plan, and then we're going to go try to execute it as best we can. Let the chips fall where they may, and then go right back to that again. And we're doing the right things. We're getting better. Every time one thing comes up and you fix it, there's another thing that you have to fix, and that's part of the process. And we'll keep doing the right things until it's where everybody wants it to be.